In fact, you don't even need to fly to another planet just to see a view that looks unreal. Yes, because right here on Earth, there are places that are already so unique. Land and water formations that seem to be shaped by other beings or came from another dimension. Just like the white desert that looks like snow in the middle of the hot Africa. And there are also mountains that seem to float in the clouds. And each one of them has a story and mystery carved by Mother Nature herself over millions of years. In this video, we will examine and look at the most unique places in the world. Views that, when you see them, will really make you wonder if they're even real. But before we start, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. This is a big help for us content creators. Thank you very much, and now let's get started. Lençóis Maranhenses National Park, Brazil. This is a place where at first glance you would think you're on another planet. This is Lençóis Maranhenses National Park, Brazil. At first glance, it looks like you're in the middle of a desert made of sugar, with nothing but pure white sand in sight. But between these hills, there are thousands of clear lakes that are blue and green. It's pretty mind-blowing because in a place that looks like a desert, but there's a reason why it's like that. From January to June, heavy rains pour down in this region. And because the sand underneath doesn't absorb water since it's made of rock that doesn't soak up water, the rain collects between the hills, which is why the lakes form. During the rainy season, these lagoons can reach up to 3 meters or about 10 feet deep and become home to fish like the wolffish. When the dry season comes, the water disappears, but the fish remain. They're still alive, buried under the mud, waiting for the next rain. From above, it's like looking at a masterpiece created by nature. White sand, blue and green water, and shadows moving with the sun. The colors change depending on the time and the amount of light. At sunset, the water looks like mirrors sparkling in the sun. It's like liquid emerald in the middle of the desert. This place is almost untouched by the modern world. There are no paved roads and motor vehicles are not allowed inside the park to protect nature. Only off-road vehicles or boats are used to get inside. Here you can also see a variety of birds that migrate every year, as well as other animals that live depending on the rainy or dry season. The landforms and bodies of water change every year. In Lençóis Maranhenses, you will experience a unique combination of desert and sea. A world that seems impossible, but is real. A place on Earth that seems like it was taken straight out of a science fiction movie, where nature itself is the director. Wulingyuan, Scenic Area, China. In the province of Hunan, China, there is a scenery that looks like it was taken from a sci-fi movie, the Wulingyuan Scenic Area. Here, you will see more than 3,000 tall stone pillars that look like buildings made by nature itself. Each tower is made of quartz sandstone, a type of rock that was formed hundreds of millions of years ago. Because of heavy rain, wind, and weather, these slowly carved out the valleys, leaving behind only the hardest parts. That's how the vertical pillars were formed, reaching over 200 meters, or almost 660 feet high. From below, it's as if you're surrounded by floating mountains. And if you're familiar with the movie Avatar, you might notice that the Hallelujah Mountains were inspired by this place. Yes, a formation called the Southern Sky Column there was the inspiration for these mountains. The peaks of the pillars are covered with small trees and plants. That's why they look like green islands hanging in the air. In between them, there are waterfalls, caves, and rivers that bring life to the whole scenery. Because of the unique beauty of the place, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization declared it a World Heritage Site. Now there are glass bridges, cable cars, and view decks built so tourists can experience the beauty of the view. This includes the popular Geyser Glass Bridge. It's the tallest and longest glass bridge in the world. But despite being a favorite destination for visitors, strict maintenance is still enforced here. The number of people allowed each day is limited, and strict waste management is enforced to maintain the cleanliness and natural state of the place. When the fog hits in the morning, the surroundings look like a sea of clouds and the rocks seem to float in the sky. In those moments, you can't tell if you're still on Earth or on another planet created by nature. Pamukkale, Turkey. In the country of Turkey, there's a view that looks like it's made of snow. Pamukkale, which in Turkish means cotton castle. You can find this in the southwest part of the country, and it's known for its white terraces that cascade down the side of the mountain. These are not ice, but travertine, a white stone that has formed over thousands of years from hot springs rich in calcium carbonate. As the water flows and cools, it leaves behind a thick layer. The white stone eventually turns into something like crystal steps. The water that springs here has a temperature ranging from 95 to 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So even though it looks cold, the water flowing through the terraces is hot. Since the time of the Romans, Pamukkale has been known as a healing spa. Next to it is the ancient city of Hierapolis, which was built on top of the terraces. Here you can find the remains of temples and a large theater that proves the wealth and history of the place. Because of its incredible beauty, it was declared a United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization World Heritage Site. But it was almost destroyed in the 20th century. Back then, hotels were built right on top of the terraces and people were allowed to swim anywhere. Because of this, the shine of the white stones gradually faded. But when the government decided to close the hotels and tighten regulations, Pamukkale gradually regained its former beauty. Now you can still walk barefoot along the terraces, but only in designated areas, so that it can be preserved while visitors experience the unique warmth of the water. When sunlight hits it, the water sparkles bluish and silvery on top of the white stone. From afar, it looks like an icy mountain bathed in light. But when you feel the warmth from the natural springs, that's when you realize it's not snow, but a work of art by nature that seems like it's from another planet. Vlei Geyser, United States. In the middle of the Nevada desert, there's a strange site that looks like it was intentionally created by a being from another planet. The Vlei Geyser is neither fully natural nor entirely man-made. It was formed in 1964 when a geothermal energy company drilled a well. They found hot water, but it wasn't enough for energy production. They left the hole open, and from there, it kept flowing. The hot water is full of minerals. As the water cools, it deposits calcium carbonate and other minerals around the opening, until a unique crater was formed shaped like an alien tower. The most amazing thing about it is the colors. Bright red, yellow, and green colors are made by thermophilic algae, plants that grow in hot, mineral-rich water. Under the desert sun, the geyser sparkles as if it were a living artwork, flowing and constantly changing. Although it's quite small, standing at about 5 feet tall, it continuously spouts hot water that forms terraced pools around it. From above, you can see circular and wave-like colors, like an abstract painting in the middle of the arid desert. Now, the Vlei Geyser is owned by the Burning Man Project, which bought it in 2016 to protect and preserve it from damage. Public access is limited, and only a few guided tours are allowed each year to protect the fragile structure. If you see it in person, you'll think that it shouldn't exist in this world. A living sculpture of fire, water, and time that erupted from beneath the earth by accident. Dead Vlei, Namibia. In the middle of Namib Naukluft National Park in Namibia, there's a view that looks like it's straight out of a science fiction film. Dead Vlei, or Dead Lake. In ancient times, this was a sandy valley traversed by a river. Whenever there were heavy rains, a shallow lake would form here where camel thorn trees would grow. But everything changed when the sands completely blocked the river and the water gradually disappeared. The trees died, but they didn't rot because the air was so dry. Instead, they remained standing for 600 years, dry and dark, like shadows buried in time. The soil here is white clay pan, and it's surrounded by some of the highest sand dunes in the world. They reach nearly 1,000 feet. When the sun hits them, the sands turn a vivid red and orange, while the ground remains white beneath the black trees. When you look at it, it seems like a painting. The colors are so intense, it's almost unbelievable. In the silence of the desert, you can only hear the wind and your own breathing. There are no birds, no insects, only traces of the past remain. Despite seeming lifeless, there are still some creatures living here. Oryx, ostriches, and small animals that have learned to survive without water. The dead Vlei is proof that even in the harshest places, there is still a unique form of water. Today it is one of the most visited destinations by photographers. The contrast of colors and shapes creates an image that looks like it was made by a painter, not by nature. With each glance, you'll feel transported to another planet. Silent, mysterious, lifeless, yet incredibly beautiful. Vermilion Cliffs National Monument, United States. At the border of Arizona and Utah, you'll find a painting-like view that seems unnatural. The Vermilion Cliffs National Monument. It covers almost 300,000 hectares of redstone, towering cliffs and hills with striped colors that look like they were drawn by an artist's hand. In the sunlight, its colors change from pale pink to deep ochre. One of its most famous parts is the wave, a rock formation with wavy curves and lines that look like they were painted with a brush. When the sun hits it, the lines shimmer like flowing water in the desert. Because of its immense popularity, you need to win the daily permit lottery before you can enter to keep the fragile formation safe. Aside from the wave, there's also the White Pocket, known for a mistake in Pariah Canyon, a long stretch of narrow slot canyons that look like the hallways of a natural cathedral. Because of the vastness and remote location of Vermilion Cliffs, there is almost no modern infrastructure to be found here. There are no paved roads, no signal, and it's rare to encounter other people. To get there, you need a four-wheel drive and excellent navigation skills. For those who reach it, it feels like another world, a quiet planet shaped by wind and time for millions of years. Here you'll realize how skilled nature is at creating beauty even without human art. Under the hot sun, as the light hits the redstone, the whole view becomes like a living canvas. It's proof that there are places in this world that are more surreal than imagination. Rotorua Region, New Zealand. On the North Island of New Zealand, there's a region that seems to always be boiling, Rotorua. It's one of the most active geothermal zones in the world, and at first glance, it already gives the impression of being on another planet. Around the city, you'll see steam rising from the ground, boiling mud, and hot springs with vibrant colors. From blue and green to orange and yellow, this unique view is a relationship. It's the result of magma close to the surface of the Earth, heating the water below and creating hundreds of thermal vents. One of the most famous attractions here is the Y.O. Tapu Thermal Wonderland, a park where the minerals in the water create almost surreal colors. The Champagne Pool, for example, has deep turquoise water surrounded by orange edges, created by arsenic and antimony sulfides. There's also the Artist's Palette, a terrace that changes color depending on the flow of the water. In addition, you can also find the Pamukkale Geyser here, the largest active geyser in the southern hemisphere, which can reach up to 100 feet high whenever it erupts. But Rotorua is not only unique for its views, it is also part of the culture of the Maori, the indigenous people who have lived here for many centuries. They use the hot water not only for bathing, but also for cooking. In some parks and communities, you can still see natural springs being used as stoves and baths. The smell of sulfur, the sound of boiling mud, and the steam rising from the ground. All of these give you the feeling that you're walking on a living planet, a place where every rock, water, and steam seems to breathe. Salar de Uyuni, Bolivia. In the southwest part of Bolivia, you'll find the largest salt flat in the world, Salar de Uyuni. Imagine a place that's almost 4,000 square miles wide, with a floor made entirely of salt and no boundaries in sight. When you look around, it's like you're standing on top of a giant mirror. During the dry season, you can see millions of hexagonal salt patterns formed by natural crystallization. But during the rainy season, it's covered with clear water that becomes a perfect mirror, making the sky and the ground look like they're one and the same. It's like you're floating in the middle of the clouds, a view that's so surreal, like a scene from a sci-fi movie. The Salar de Uyuni was once part of ancient lakes that gradually dried up tens of thousands of years ago. Beneath its thick crust, there's a hidden lithium-rich brine that is the source of a large portion of the world's lithium supply, the essential ingredient in batteries for modern technology. In the middle of the vast lowland, there are small islands made of rock. The most popular here is Inkawasi Island, which is covered with giant cacti that grow more than 30 feet tall. In the morning, the sun shines on the salt and cacti, and the whole surroundings light up like crystal. Because of its unique beauty, thousands of tourists and photographers visit here every year. It is also used as a location for movies and commercials that want to show a futuristic or alien landscape. But more than its appearance, the Salar de Uyuni is a reminder of how uniquely nature has shaped our world. A place that seems impossible, but truly exists. Under the sun, as the sky reflects on the salt floor, you will feel as if you are standing between the earth and the sky. Zhangye Landform Geological Park, China. In the province of Gansu in China, there is a scenery that looks as if it was painted by the hands of God using every color in the palette. The Zhangye Landform Geological Park. When you look here, you will see mountains and cliffs streaked with red, yellow, blue, green, and orange. It's like a massive painted canvas stretching across the horizon. But behind this beauty are millions of years. A natural process, red sandstone and mineral deposits that accumulated and hardened over 20 million years. As time passed, the wind and rain became its sculptors. They gradually shaped the hills, cliffs, and valleys until the forms and lines we see today were created. The iron oxide gives the red color, while copper sulfate and other minerals are responsible for the green and yellow lines. After the rain, the colors become even more vivid. The colors almost look like there's light coming from the ground itself. At sunrise and sunset, shadows and colors shift, making every moment a unique masterpiece. To protect the area, the authorities built wooden walkways and viewing decks so visitors can walk around without damaging the natural rock. As a result, it's now a top destination for photographers and tourists across China. When you stand in the middle of Zhangye, it feels like you can't tell where reality ends and imagination begins. It's a reminder that you don't have to look to another planet to witness this kind of wonder. Sometimes, it's enough to just look at the ground itself. Cappadocia, Turkey. In the heart of Turkey's Anatolian plateau, there's a place that appears shaped by imagination. Cappadocia, a kingdom of stone and history that seems like it doesn't belong to this world. Here you will find the unique rock formations called fairy chimneys. Tall stone towers with round caps on top like the hats of elves. But beyond their appearance, these stones hold thousands of years of stories. More than 60 million years ago, ancient volcanoes like Mount Erciyes and Mount Hassan erupted, releasing thick ash and lava. The ash hardened and became a soft stone called tuff, which is easy to carve. The ancient people found shelter here. They literally carved their homes into the rock. This is also where you can find underground cities like Derinkuyu, an extremely deep city with 18 floors below ground. It can accommodate up to 20,000 people along with their animals. There are kitchens, storage rooms, ventilation, and secret passages. A true marvel of ancient engineering. Above ground, you'll find the Gorimi Open Air Museum, where you can see churches and monasteries also carved into the rock. Its walls have fresco paintings depicting scenes from the Bible. These were made between the 10th and 12th centuries. As one of the most beautiful destinations in the world, every morning hundreds of hot air balloons fly simultaneously over the valleys, a view that's like a dream. As you walk through the valleys of Love Valley, Rose Valley, or Pigeon Valley, you'll feel like you've gone back to another era, or maybe you're on another planet. Here, history, nature, and mystery come together to create a place that's not just unique, but truly magical. Music Mount Roraima, Venezuela, Brazil, Guadalajara. At the border of Venezuela, Brazil, and Guyana, there's a mountain that looks like a giant table built in the clouds, Mount Roraima. It's one of the most amazing natural formations in the world and is often compared to the view of another planet. It rises to almost 9,200 feet at the summit, a strange world, cold, misty, and shrouded in clouds almost all year round. The rocks that make up Mount Roraima are among the oldest in the world, dating back almost 2 billion years. It was once part of a vast sandstone plateau, but over time, wind and rain slowly split it apart until only the flat-topped mountains called Tepui were left. These are islands in the sky. It's not just the view that's unique here, but also the creatures. On the summit, carnivorous plants like pitcher plants and sundews grow, feeding on insects to survive. There are mosses, small shrubs, and some unique species that can only be found here in the entire world. For the indigenous Pemon and Capon people, this mountain is sacred. According to their legend, Mount Roraima is said to be the stump of a giant tree that once contained all the fruits and plants in the world. A god made the tree's trunk fall, creating the tepuis, the flat mountains across the region. Today it is included among the protected areas and United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization World Heritage Sites because of its unique ecology and culture. But even though there are tourists who climb it, it still remains one of the most isolated places on the planet. When you reach the summit and look around, you'll see clouds crawling along the edge of the cliff and waterfalls that seem to fall straight from the sky. Here, you'll feel as if you've stepped out of Earth into a quiet, magical world that's long been hidden in the clouds. The White Desert, Egypt. In the western part of Egypt, about 45 kilometers from the town of Farafra, you'll find a scenery that looks like it's from another planet, the White Desert, or Sahara El Beida. When you first see it, it feels like you've wandered into a desert made of snow. But this isn't ice. These are chalk and limestone formations that were formed 80 million years ago when this place was still part of an ancient sea. As the waters receded over time, thick calcium carbonate layers remain, gradually shaped by wind and sand. The wind here is the true sculptor. With its constant blowing, it slowly carved the rocks until these unique shapes were formed. Some look like mushrooms, animals, or strange creatures. There's even one formation called the chicken, and the mushroom because of its unusual shape. During the day, the surroundings turn bright white and silver because of the sunlight. But at night, when the moonlight hits, the whole desert sparkles like a sea of crystals. It's a view that's almost unbelievable, quiet, vast, and dreamlike. The White Desert is part of the White Desert National Park, a protected area established in 2002 to preserve its formations. You can also find traces of ancient people here, tools and places used by nomadic tribes. Many years have passed. There is also a small community in Farafra, or oasis, where residents grow olives, dates, and other crops. They use water from underground aquifers. In the middle of the barren surroundings, they are living proof that people can survive even in the middle of nowhere. Now, it is a popular destination for desert safaris. Tourists often spend the night here under the stars. They sleep among the white stones, like guardians of time. And if you want to experience something like traveling to another planet without leaving Earth, it's enough to visit the White Desert, where the silence and beauty seem frozen in time.